Over $10 billion was recently withdrawn from Aave in just a few days, following an exploit on the Kelp DAO protocol, with Aave being one of the leading lending protocols in DeFi for years now. And it's continued operating through bear markets and through the lunar Celsius FTX collapses. So what's happening here with this huge amount of liquidity being withdrawn from Aave, with users' Ethereum and stablecoins being locked on the platform, and with borrowing interest rates soaring? In this video, we'll break this down and look at if this was actually Aave's fault, how it happened in the first place with the Kelp DAO exploit and liquid restaking, and what 100% utilization means on Aave, meaning that users can't withdraw their crypto. We'll also look at what Aave and the DeFi industry as a whole is doing to come together to try to resolve the situation. Just a quick reminder that nothing contained here is financial advice, and let's jump straight in. This all started with an exploit on the Kelp DAO protocol, which is a liquid restaking platform and the second largest with over $1.5 billion in TVL, or total value locked. And in case you weren't aware, liquid restaking is basically a way to try to maximize capital efficiency. So a yield is earned from staking Ethereum as normal, but then to get even more yield, platforms like Kelp will take that Ethereum and restake it elsewhere on protocols like Eigenlayer. And in return for locking up a user's Ethereum, Kelp issues a receipt token, which in this case is called rsETH. And that receipt token represents the underlying staked Ethereum and any future yield. rsETH is also liquid, so that means it can be used elsewhere in DeFi to generate even more yield. So hopefully you can see how it's essentially a chain, and if one part of this chain is in trouble, then it affects the others in that chain also. Because in this case, attackers found a vulnerability in the cross-chain bridge connecting Kelp's tokens on Unichain to Ethereum. By forging a message on the Layer 0 network, they tricked the bridge to release funds and managed to drain about $292 million of rsETH, with a lot of back and forth in terms of who has liability here and whose fault it was exactly. But because these rsETH tokens weren't actually backed by any ETH, this created a bit of a domino effect, with the attacker using 7 different routes with this stolen rsETH. Just a reminder that I do offer one-to-one coaching to those who are genuinely looking to educate themselves in the crypto space, with there being links in the description to contact me and booking a free video call to see if we'd be a good fit. So why was about $10 billion withdrawn from Aave, and why is it even involved? Well, the attackers used their stolen rsETH and then deposited it on Aave to use as collateral in several different ways, as you can see here. And according to this report by Llama Risk, 89,567 rsETH was supplied to Aave at a value of over $221 million, all of which isn't backed by anything and will also be gaining yield on Aave. It then borrowed about $193 million against this stolen rsETH on Aave, taking mainly wrapped ETH. And they of course wouldn't be bothered with things like liquidations because the collateral they put down was stolen anyway. So this is how Aave ended up with having a huge amount of bad debt. And when the wider market realizes that the rsETH is worth nothing because it's stolen, investors then panic and try to get their funds off of Aave as soon as possible in order to protect themselves. And this is why so much liquidity left Aave in just a few days, making it essentially a decentralized bank run, with the TVL on Aave dropping from about $26 billion to $14 billion in April, causing this to return to levels not seen since early November 2024. To understand why users' funds then get locked up on a protocol like Aave, we need to look at interest rates, because it uses an interest rate curve algorithm. So when there's a lot of liquidity on the platform, borrowing rates are kept low to encourage more loans, or in other words, it has a lot of funds that it can loan out. This is why the USDC borrow APR interest rate actually dropped to just 2.76% on March the 10th, 2026. On the other hand, when liquidity drops and the protocol doesn't have as many funds, the algorithm increases the interest rates to incentivize new lenders to deposit their stablecoins or crypto to earn that better yield. It also encourages investors not to take out new loans due to the higher borrow rates. That would take even more liquidity off of the platform, with it even encouraging existing borrowers to repay their loans or potentially risk being liquidated. So, due to the liquidity being removed from Aave that we saw previously, the borrow APR for USDC, so if you were borrowing USDC from Aave, shot up to 16% on April the 21st, although it has come down a bit now in the past few days, currently being 6.8% at the time of recording this video. So the reason that users' funds can be locked and they're unable to withdraw them is that the utilization rate can reach 100% if so much liquidity is withdrawn from the protocol and very little new capital is added. This means that every dollar of liquidity sitting in the smart contract is lent out, so there's no cash left to enable withdrawals as investors have borrowed it. So retail investors who'd put their USDC, USDT for example on Aave to earn a safe and good yield found themselves unable to withdraw their funds. They just have to wait for borrowers to repay their loans before they can withdraw, or for a resolution to the bad debt issue that we looked at earlier. And this applies to wrapped ETH on Aave too, given the impact of rsETH. And this situation has forced the DeFi industry to react. And we've seen the formation of the DeFi United coalition. So major protocols aren't just sending messages of support, they're stepping in to provide emergency liquidity, with Stani Kulachov, the founder of Aave, stating that Aave is his life's work, and confirmed that he's personally contributing 5,000 ETH to the recovery efforts, with many other major protocols across the DeFi ecosystem also adding vital liquidity and offering support, obviously including Aave, which has proposed contributing 25,000 ETH, and Kelp, which is contributing 2,000 ETH from its treasury to DeFi United. And the aim is to help restore rsETH's full backing, to repeg these assets, and to provide an exit route for the trapped liquidity, so this is resolved for all affected users. Aave states that it's aligned with Kelp and Layer 0 on the technical steps required to execute the plan. And Stani Kulachov has stated that the recovery fund has now been agreed, with Aave putting out a post on X on the 28th of April detailing the plan to restore the Kelp rsETH backing by using the raised ETH that DeFi United has put together. They state that Layer 0 and Kelp have increased the security of the bridge that was exploited, and they're also planning to change the rsETH Oracle price in order to create a deficit and therefore be able to liquidate the existing positions on Aave Ethereum Core and Arbitrum in order to recover about 13,000 ETHs worth of funds on Aave. The recovered rsETH will then be sent to DeFi United, who will then restore the rsETH Oracle price and supply ETH to make good the previous positions on Aave. During this time, wrapped ETH and rsETH reserves on Ethereum, Arbitrum, Base, Mantle and Linear will continue to be frozen. And this crisis has also highlighted a reality about the DeFi industry, because to try to stop the hacker from moving and laundering the stolen funds, the Arbitrum Security Council actually intervened and froze funds on their blockchain. So while this action protected investors and was therefore obviously a good thing, it does go against the core ethos of permissionless decentralized cryptocurrency, because blockchain technology is supposed to be immutable, where no single entity should be able to censor transactions or freeze accounts if one person, company, or government tells them to. So this incident just shows that many networks do have a central off switch and have the power to freeze assets. And some people have raised concerns about the true decentralization of Layer 2 networks, and therefore possibly if they're even needed anymore, but that's another discussion. So this situation has shown the increased risk of people having their crypto on third-party platforms and chasing yield in DeFi, rather than holding it themselves in self-custody and cold storage. Because we've seen instances where users simply can't withdraw their crypto from a protocol, so the investor loses all control of their assets and essentially becomes a creditor, hoping the situation gets sorted. As always, self-custody and the security of people's crypto is key to us at Coin Knowledge as a business focused on education. So holding your assets securely in a hardware wallet in cold storage in something like a Trezor is key. And I did a review and unboxing of the Trezor Safe 5 hardware wallet, which you can find a link to here and in the description of this video, as well as a link to their official website. After doing that, the next crucial step is securing your seed phrase. CryptoTag is the leading and best-selling storage device for that. And I recently did a review of the CryptoTag Zeus model, which again you can find a link to above and in the description of this video. So that ends this video, and as always, I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. If you found this useful, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it honestly really helps and just means that we can continue offering more content for you in future. Thanks for watching and have a great day.